If you sell online coaching through Instagram, you are going to want to watch this to the end. I'm going to be breaking down all the different methods and strategies that people use to try and sell their coaching online and highlighting some of the common mistakes that people make that slow down their growth. So this is going to be a tier list of what works the best in terms of how much output it takes compared to the income that you can make from it. Because it's easy just to do a lot of things. Like I'm sure, most people just do all of these things, but not all of them have the same value in terms of leverage, right? So we want to look at this through the lens of what's the least amount of work that you can do to earn the most amount of income. And I'm going to be ranking all of these through this tier list here. So let's get into this. So first up, what we have are lead magnets. So with lead magnets, I'm going to put these at a B tier simply because lead magnets are great, but when's the last time you've actually gotten a lead magnet, put your details in, and it's helped with you converting into a sale? Most of the time, lead magnets just attract freebie seekers. Yes, they can help because it's more like a long-term nurture play. It's more like giving goodwill out into your audience, and it's just like a touch point for them to convert in the future. Lead magnets, they're not really a conversion mechanism unless you have like a dialed sales team where they can call the leads straight away and then nurture them manually to get them into a book call. It's just a slow process, and oftentimes it takes longer to put the lead magnets together than it does to do some of these other things here. So I'm going to put this at a B tier. It is effective, but it's not a instant conversion mechanism. So next up, what we have is outreach. So this is reaching out to people online. This I would put at a C tier, simply because if we're looking at this through the lens of leverage, this is so low leverage. If you have an appointment setter that can go and do the outreach for you, then this would be up at probably the S tier because that is super high leverage. The only problem with this is that because you're doing outreach, you're reaching out to people, you don't have any authority, you are coming in, you don't have leverage in terms of the conversation and the way that you are entering the conversation. Most people see this as spam. They know it's spam. They don't even give it the time of day. And it's very difficult to actually get around getting conversations booked. Like I think industry average for outreach is if you reach out to 100 people, maybe one person might get into a book call. So that's super low leverage. But again, it's scalable and high leverage if you have a appointment setter. If you don't, I'm going to put this at C tier. Next up, we have follower ads. Now, follower ads are 100% an S tier move. This is how you manufacture traffic. If we look at online coaching, all it is just how you can grab attention and how you can get traffic onto your page. These day and age, follower ads and your profile ads, your profile is the new landing page, right? So if that's a new landing page, that's the conversion mechanism, then the next problem that most coaches face is getting people onto their page, right? So follower ads accelerates that process. It just amplifies organic, right? Now, with the follower ads that you run, these aren't flashy ads where you're in a nice setting like a podcast studio or anything. That can be an ad, but oftentimes what I've seen with my clients and running follower ads is ugly ads perform the best. We had one client who did an ugly ad, which what I mean by that is it's just a native Instagram looking ad, native text hook here, captions, talking to the camera, and that ad itself pulled in $50,000 in one single month, right? So follower ads and native ugly ads are a super high leverage task because if you're already posting content organically, why would you not just put money behind it to manufacture the traffic? It is a no-brainer in terms of leverage and scalability. Next up, what we have are call to actions. So call to actions are an A tier. Now, the reason why they're not an S tier is because if you rinse call to actions, people are going to get fatigued to it and they're not going to act on what you are asking them to take action on, right? So call to actions are great, but they have to be you have to monitor them and you have to do them at a certain cadence. Otherwise, people just get fatigued to it. They see you asking for things all the time. They just get washed, right? They don't care. But they're an A tier because people only take action if they're prompted, right? That's why a call to action is there. It's telling them what next step to take. If you have this incredible piece of content or story sequence and there's no call to action, the thought of taking the next step doesn't even enter their mind. So you need to have call to actions at the end of story sequences or posts in a certain cadence, right? That is definitely an A tier activity. Next up, what we have is documenting. So I would say that documenting is an S tier activity simply because this allows you to capture you in your flow state and create content around that, right? So what I mean by that is instead of creating content, instead of putting the camera down like this right here, YouTube is creating content more so. Instead of creating content, you can document content. So it's capturing you in your flow state. What I mean by documenting is if you're on client calls, you can have a separate camera laid out and it shows you talking to your clients, or you get the Fathom recording and you piece the Fathom recording for an insight that you shared, or you are going through the process of, for example, if you're like a health coach or something and you help clients with blood work, going through the process of documenting you analyzing their blood work. This does so many different things. It demonstrates expertise, it shows proof, plus it also shows, and it builds this momentum and FOMO because it feels like people are missing out on the things that you're documenting, right? So that is an S tier activity, I think, because it captures you when you are not creating. It's way more authentic. Next up, what we have here are story sequences. Story sequences are also an S tier. So I would say with story sequences, they have to be done correctly. The goal with story sequences is to invoke emotion. So the core emotion that we want to invoke is FOMO. FOMO is how you create urgency. If you can create this internal tension and it makes it feel like someone's missing out, and you have this story sequence of, maybe it's a story sequence surrounding a testimonial and it's talking about the journey that someone went on, and you say, a lot of people, they are constantly, for example, if it was me, you're posting content consistently, but that is not what creates results. The way that you create results is through follower ads. This is how my client James went from X to Y in 30 days, right? And then if you want to bypass or skip the guesswork, DM me below to learn more, right? That is going to create urgency. It's going to create this, I'm missing out. This person's created these results and I need to do that. And the reason why I'm not achieving that is because I haven't done this thing that I'm talking about in the story sequence, right? So story sequences are S tier because not only with the difference between posting like a reel and a carousel and a story is that reels and carousels go to your audience, but then also go to other people, right? Whereas stories are specifically for your audience. So they're way more intimate. And because if people are watching your story sequence over and over and over again, and they're clicking through and they're not skipping, Instagram will prioritize them at the front of the story sequences. So it's not always prioritized by the most recent story sequence, because think about all the people that you follow. There might be thousands of people. You don't have thousands of story sequences. You might, but the ones that you look at the most are the ones that get prioritized at the front. So if you can create this community and have good story sequences, then you're going to help with the conversion process when you have a story sequence with a call to action that invokes emotion, right? So that's definitely an X tier activity. Next up is free trainings. So what I mean by free trainings is like having a link in bio or having a link to go through to your YouTube page to get nurtured. I would say this is also an S tier activity. The reason why this is an S tier activity is because Instagram is short form, right? Instagram is short form, and Google did a study about the 7-11-4 rule. I believe it's 7 different touch points over 11 hours and 4 different pieces of content consumed, something along those lines. Doesn't really matter. All you need to know is that short form isn't enough to convert your audience. You need to nurture them with long form. You need to have time spent with your audience. They need to feel like they're your friend. They need to feel like they know you, right? So in YouTube videos, free trainings, things that you can shift beliefs and demonstrate your expertise, accelerate the conversion process when they come back through Instagram and they see your story sequences and they see your documenting. So although this isn't an instant conversion mechanism, this is super high leverage because when you have a free training on YouTube or whatever it is evergreen, right? It's there forever and it stays. Instagram stories are only 24 hours. Reels, people only see them once unless they go back, but they rarely do, right? YouTube is evergreen, so it's always going to be there, meaning that it's high leverage because you put in a fixed amount of time and that time is scalable. So next up, we have value content. Value content, I would put at B tier simply because value content is great, don't get me wrong, but it is limited because think about the last time you've actually gotten a piece of value and gone and implemented it. Does it actually help with the conversion? It does, but not as much as like your long form value content and trainings, right? So value content's good, but it's a supplement. It's not the conversion mechanism within itself. You want to continue to post value content and have a mix between connection, value, and proof content, but this is a B tier. I would put it under documenting. Like you can document value. This is a much superior way to get your value across because it shows proof within itself, right? It demonstrates your expertise within itself. If you're documenting the back-end delivery of a client, or you've got a result and you're documenting the journey, or you're going on a path and you're documenting it, it's much better. It's much more valuable. People don't care about here are 3 tips to achieve XYZ outcome. Anything that is chat GPTable, get it out. Get it out. You do not, that you are training your audience to not listen to you if you are doing those types of content. You need to have unique insights, right? There's this spectrum. There's this spectrum that you can follow, and on each side there's crazy and crazy, right? Then the 2 pillars within it is unique, and then the middle one is boring. So it goes boring, unique, crazy. You don't want to be boring, which is ChatGPT content. You don't want to be crazy. You don't want to just talk shit. You don't want to just have crazy claims and things that just, don't help your case for people to believe what you're talking about. But you do want to have unique insights. You want to have an edge. You want to look at what's going on in the market and in your industry and look at how you can either counter position or have different takes, right? If you're an expert, if you're selling coaching, you have unique takes. You should, otherwise you probably shouldn't be selling coaching. So think about it. Think about what unique takes you have and how you can create content around those. Those will be your value pieces of content. Those over time will stack up to help with the conversion when you do a CTA, when you do a story sequence, right? Next up, what we have here is Typeform. So Typeform in your bio, I would say is C tier. Very rarely, unless you have a huge amount of traffic going to your page and a very clear offer, are people just organically filling out your Typeform. They might, but one of 2 things will happen. Either they'll come through and they'll be tire kickers. They're not actually serious. They're just looking for information, or they're broke. They don't have the money, right? Because they're just wanting to understand like what the price is before actually really figuring out if this is for them or not. So a way to get around this, instead of just having a straight Typeform in your bio, is having a landing page. This way then you can have a headline with a VSL, which is like a free training underneath it, that taps into their pains, taps into their desires, taps into their like your mechanism and how you help them with getting results. And then underneath that, have the Typeform. Because another thing that will happen if you just have Typeform in the bio is they'll click on it, but they won't actually fill it out. And like, what's the point? They could have, if you had a video there where they could actually be nurtured and actually understand what it is you're doing. But because you don't, they'll either book because they're curious and they want to know how much money it is and they're just tire kickers, or they won't. So a free training and like a landing page will help with getting around that, right? So that is in the C tier list. Lifestyle content. So lifestyle content, again, I would say that this is a B tier activity, simply because this again is a supplement. It supplements the conversion process. It doesn't actually turn people into paying clients, especially like if you're just showing, Lambos and all these different things. People don't want that, right? Unless they're like 16 and broke, which you probably don't want them as clients. But lifestyle content is extremely important because you have to show how you are living proof of the results that your mechanism creates. What does that mean? If you're a fitness coach, you need to show your physique. You need to show you eating. You need to show you out talking to women. You need to show whatever the results that your mechanism, your offer creates, you need to demonstrate that you're living proof of that. For me, I am a marketing and sales coach, right? I am now traveling with my girlfriend. We're working online. We're helping clients, all these different things. It's supplementing. It's showing that I am living proof of the lifestyle that I am selling, right? That is how you have lifestyle content that actually supplements the conversion process. Next up is DM setting. This is a A-tier activity. It's on the verge of A and S if you have a setup, right? So the difference between DM setting and outreach is like reaching out to people that don't follow you and getting them to follow, right? Or to engage with your conversation. DM setting is reaching out to people that are already in your ecosystem. So if you are a coach, you need to see every single interaction as a lead. Every comment, every like, every story reply, whatever it is, every follow, of course, every single action that someone takes is considered a lead. The reason being is because something prompted them to take action. People don't take action for no reason. There was a reason that someone took action. Some type of internal story and narrative was created for them to think, all right, let me click this button. So it doesn't happen randomly. They've interacted with you first, so you should be reaching out to them and asking them what it was that got them to interact. This is perfect because then you have them in your ecosystem. If you can have a conversation with people, then you have high leverage because then you can understand their pains, understand their desires, figure out what that gap looks like, and then sell that gap with offering a call, right? To show how you can help them close that gap. That is extremely high leverage because you can muster up emotions through conversations. If you're doing this yourself, I would say that this is an A-tier activity. It's still very high leverage, but you want to get out of the trenches. You're an expert. You want to help people, you want to make money, and you want to travel and do the things that you want to do. You don't want to be sitting in the DMs all day. That is why once you start with having follower ads to get traction, then you can actually place a setter into your business to get you out of the trenches. Then you have an ecosystem. So this is in the S and A tier. Another one in terms of volume, okay? So volume, I would say, is a D tier activity. If you are an expert and you're sitting at like 5 to 10K per month plus, right? Volume is going to hurt you. If you're just starting out and you've got no page or presence, volume is going to be your friend. It's going to help, right? Because you need to have a brand. You need to have a presence online. But because Instagram is a follower first page where it goes to your followers first, you need to be careful around what you're posting. If you're posting 5-10 things a day and all of these things are shit, that there's like things that people don't even care about, you're training your audience to scroll, right? And they're going to get follower fatigue. And every time they see your piece of content, they're just going to scroll because it's like, oh, last time that was a waste of time. I'm going to save my energy. I'm going to bias to energy conservation and scroll, right? And then all of the things that you just put, all the time you put into that piece of content is now just a waste of time, right? Not only that, if you have another piece of content in the future and it's even better, they don't care because they're not even going to watch it because the last one wasn't as good, right? So volume isn't your friend if you are like, you know, already doing 5 to 10K and you have a brand. Because if you think about getting followers and getting and increasing your social media presence and making, you know, sales for your coaching business, the only reason people follow is if they feel like they're missing out on something if they don't. So you have to give them a reason to follow. So you're probably posting content, wanting to go viral, wanting to get an abundance of views, but ask yourself this question: is your page actually set up for people to convert into followers? If it's not, then use volume to find out what type of angles you need to take to build that brand, to build that presence so that when people do land on your page through follower ads or through a piece of content that does go viral, then you can convert them into a follower. So volume is good. It is low leverage. And by the way, when I say volume, I'm talking like 5 videos a day. I would highly recommend posting at least every day, right? At least every day. And then potentially even more. And then with YouTube, once a week or once every 2 weeks, just as often as possible. But I'm talking about pointless volume, like just getting content out just for the sake of it is a no-go, because you don't want to train your followers to not listen to you. If you're wanting to just post volume and see what works, see what messaging works, post on TikTok, because TikTok is a feed first algorithm. So it's going to go to the feed first. People don't really care about, TikTok doesn't care about your followers. It'll go to your followers still, but it's more feed first. So it's a higher chance to crack messaging, okay? Now, origin story. Origin story, I would say, is A tier. This origin stories are so good because it helps your audience trust you, okay? If you're constantly reminding your audience that you are like them, then they will see how you can help them get the same outcome. This is why you need to have lifestyle content that demonstrates that you're living proof of your mechanism, to show that you weren't always living this type of lifestyle. You had an origin story. You were the type of person that had the same beliefs that your current ideal client has that's keeping them stuck, until you came across this thing, right? Whatever you came across, this mechanism, this process. If you're a health coach, it was whatever shifted your beliefs, right? You shifted your beliefs when you came across this thing that you're now selling, and now you've came out on the other side. You have the desired identity, which means that you can help them with going through that same process, right? So there are 3 beliefs that you have to build in your ideal client's mind before they convert. First is belief in your mechanism, belief in your process, right? Second is belief in you, and these aren't in order. These are like a triangle where they all work together. They're all working. There's no priorities here. But it's belief in your mechanism, belief in you as the person that can help them, and then belief in themselves. So the way that they get belief in themselves is through showing how you were like them, and it also shows the trust in you because they can see how you can help them, right? If you were fat and you got skinny, that will be instant credibility to help other fat people get skinny, right? So it's the same thing. You have to show the living proof, but you also have to show the journey and the origin story. This is going to supplement your sales because it builds that trust, it builds that authority. So these are the main conversion mechanisms that people use to turn their eyeballs and attention online into paying clients. These are the priorities that you need to focus on. So if you're wanting to install proper marketing and sales systems into your online coaching business so that you have the clarity around what you need to do every single day to scale without being in the trenches and focusing on low leverage tasks, book a call below. It'll be with me directly. We'll have a chat around how we can potentially help you out to help you scale, and we'll go from there. If not, just enjoy this content. I'll be posting more of this. Leave a comment, leave a like, and if you have any questions, reach out to me on Instagram, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks.